And hello, everyone, and welcome to the MGN Football Tailgate Report. Nate Dreyer, Chandler Timmer. We've moved. We brought the couches back. We're a little bit more casual again. Hopefully, we'll have better conversation out of it. Still have a screen rolling. That's Grandville, West Ottawa from last week, and that is my intro. A huge Week 5, Chandler. Grandville, Caledonia, pair of top 10 teams in the state. We've got a really impressive West Ottawa win for the Bulldogs in the rear view. We have an interview with Grandville senior outside linebacker Ayden Doran coming up as well. So we have got a lot to get to on this show. It's going to be a terrific episode, and CT, I'll bring you on. This is a big week. It's kind of the week we've been waiting for and have had circled all year long.
Yeah, when you look at the schedule, one of the two big games that really jumps out to you, and when you look at...
We got them back-to-back.
Yeah, and they've got them back-to-back. So, it's an incredible 2-week stretch here. But looking back, the Bulldogs have taken care of business and put themselves in a good spot as they work their way into this week.
And absolutely, we mentioned it, Grandville, West Ottawa going on the screen here from last week, 35-14. And I think you can call it, even though it wasn't the highest point-scoring total offensively, it was the best defensive performance of the year in that regard. I think it was probably the most complete and best game all around I think the Bulldogs have played all year long. It was a sloppy game. It was a rough game in terms of penalties, especially that second quarter. But, the offense was pretty efficient when they were out there. The defense gave up just one score to the West Ottawa with the first Grandville defensive unit on the field. Just all around a really good, competitive, solid performance that you got to be happy with if you're Grandville coming into this 2-week stretch.
Yeah, I think all things considered, a good performance. The defense was tremendous. The offense did enough to give themselves some breathing room again. Of course, on the 35 points, one of those touchdowns being a pick six coming from the defense, so factoring that in to the scoring total. So, yeah, the total offensive number isn't there from what we've seen the first couple weeks, but it was never like the offense wasn't doing its job either. They were still moving down the field. They were scoring, gave the defense plenty of room to work with. So still impressive for both sides of the ball.
Yeah, for sure. When you talk about those penalties, I think it probably hurt West Ottawa more when you actually look at the yardage at the end. But you can think of at least one, maybe two Grandville drives that explicitly ended because of penalties out there. Just one of those sloppy, tough games. I think you have to be glad where if you come out with a solid performance despite all of that going on, especially in the early portion of the football game, you're able to control things and have it in hand start to finish. You have to be that much more happy to kind of just deal with that and handle business the way you're expected to.
Yeah, I think a game like that where you've got so much stop and start due to penalty primarily, that's a game that's built for an upset more than the team that's usually favored going into it. So that's a game that would typically a team like West Ottawa would benefit from getting Grandville off their game and then being able to capitalize off from that. So you have to look at it like the Bulldogs still took care of business, really didn't get them out of their rhythm. It's very hard when the game is stop and start like that, and you've got big plays coming back and forth. And like you said, primarily I think it was the Panthers being hurt by it, but still the Bulldogs able to prevail through that and really pretty comfortably.
Yeah, and I think most importantly, this game was our first sign or our first viewing of life without Tyson Mann, which of course, Mann, the Bulldog senior, are going to be injured for the next several weeks. We can probably expect at this point in time with that leg injury. So we learned a lot of things. First off, we learned that Easton Sadinsky, the sophomore, is going to fill in for him on both sides of the ball in terms of his place at free safety and at the right running back position. Also, Jaden Terry gets a lot of touches, I think, to kind of make up for some of that. So we started to see that the real youth movement is going to be what's going to make up for losing one of your most experienced players.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to replace Tyson Mann, but kind of as we expected, the rotation in there. Sadinsky, you saw him for the last couple weeks starting to be worked into this offense after he missed week 1 due to an injury. So the timing there that Sadinsky able to kind of step into that role. And then, of course, Terry being worked into more of a workhorse role as well, where he'd been seeing some touches, but once Tyson Mann went down the previous week, the half that he missed, Terry got a bunch of carries, and then this week again touched the ball quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. And it was talk about rotation, probably the deepest the defense has rotated all year long, I'd say, especially the secondary. I feel like we saw a lot of different names even before the second unit came out on the field. So I think that's a positive thing to see that they are able to go to those kind of deeper looks, go into more of a rotational type look and see what they can do. Always such a big part of what this defense wants to do. But without Tyson Mann, it seems like they're going to be okay. But these are the next 2 weeks that you're going to learn a lot. Caledonia and then Rockford the week following. Talking about that defense a little bit more again. The most suffocating they've been all year long. Just one score given up to the West Ottawa first unit. But most notably to me, West Ottawa's one score, they, middle of the game, switched from a spread to a power look. They really ran it down Grandville's throat a little bit. The Bulldogs next time out made a quick adjustment. West Ottawa wasn't able to do that again. I think that was the most impressive part of the game to me, was how they were able to really flip things like the way they did.
Yeah, and I think that's really grown to be one of the strengths of this defense when you look at Coach Landis and his ability to make adjustments like that, where possibly in years past you see a team make a switch like that, going more to power football, and the Bulldogs take a while to adjust to it, and it becomes a game-long thing where the other team has now got an advantage running that power system a little bit. But yeah, it was one drive, and then the Bulldogs shut it down from there until the second unit was on. So their ability and their versatility at so many positions with so many players like that really allows them to do multiple different things, and to where they can show different looks. And they've already got these things prepared so that when a team like West Ottawa kind of goes away from what they normally do to switch to that, they're not really that caught off guard because they've already had that installed into their defense.
By the way, everyone, make a mental note of that West Ottawa power running drive from the spread coming in, because that's going to be something we're going to talk about a lot in about 20 minutes or so when we get into Caledonia and previewing that game. The ability to mix things up defensively also, you kind of talked about it, but in particular the blitz package, and Jaden Terry got his second sack of the year. We saw them do some different things, kind of the two down, couple different standing fronts. They're starting to mix things up offensively. We saw some single wing used again. I mean, for Grandville, traditionally, it's been both sides of the ball. You know what to expect. On offense, that still is somewhat the case, but it's also the case of sometimes they're going to show you what they're going to do and you still can't stop it. Defensively, offensively too, slightly now, it's just a constant mix, so many different looks. Jaden Terry, as I mentioned, getting that, the sack. Other guys in there as well. Stockwell came out, got the pick six. Just a lot of different looks and a lot of guys in different places. They're going to force you to look all over the place in West Ottawa. It was really in that kind of torture chamber all night long.
Yeah, they were having a hard time figuring it out. I mean, you could really, the pick six was the biggest play where you could just see the Grandville defense was a step ahead, where West Ottawa was trying to throw the football short most of the night, and I think ended with right around 40 passing yards. So, I mean, they took what they were going to do away from them and really completely shut that part of the game down. But, yeah, there's so many looks that they can bring. Stockwell, Doran, guys like Jaden Terry now, they can bring them off the edge where the quarterback's having to look for multiple different guys to see are they coming, are they dropping back in coverage. Both these guys can do either, so it really doesn't there's not a weakness to if they're doing one or the other either. So, I mean, you could see on that pick six, Tolguski, for the quarterback for the Panthers, never even saw Stockwell there. No. He just dropped back, and it was a short throw, a slant route, and Stockwell just stepped back and caught it right there. And that's just the defense kind of anticipating what's coming and being in the right place and having their players in the right spot.
And we talked to Ayden Doran about that in the interview as well, because he plays a similar position, of course, at outside linebacker to Stockwell, and kind of talked to him about the mental aspect. We talked to Drew Hungerford about this as well, the mental aspect of especially that linebacker position, needing to move around. You think about Ayden, he's on the front line. He's playing outside backer. He's even in coverage sometimes as well, and we've seen that out of that position the last few years, having to move around so much and be doing different things to help make that defense work. So, yeah, I think they're an exciting place, and they did it the opposite way. They've been normally stopping the run game completely, the pass game maybe more. This time nothing in the pass game and really nothing in the run game outside of that one real kind of power driver. West Ottawa did get quite a bit of movement. So I think the defense is playing as well as they have all year right now. The offense is really just maintaining at the same level that they have been, just maybe fewer possessions in this game that they had a chance to score. I mean, they didn't touch the ball in the third quarter until like 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. So, I think that's going to be part of the scoring in this game as well. Last guy I want to talk about individual, I want to talk about is Carson Smith, because we didn't see him on defense quite as much. He was returning punts in that game, but touchdown through the air, touchdown on the ground. He is providing such an experienced, steady-handed leadership to the way he's running this offense. It is the ultimate X factor for them going into these matchups down the stretch, the way he's playing right now.
Yeah, he's played phenomenally. I mean, continues to run the football well when in a game like Hudsonville where he's asked to run the football a little bit more, he can do that. We've seen him all season long just constantly making the right decisions when it comes to run the football, or whether that's throwing the play action pass as well. Knowing when to throw the football away, putting the right amount of touch on the ball to get it over top of the defense. I mean, just really seeing the field well. And so you kind of take that for granted in an offense like this, a guy that just steadily leads the ship. but also has that big playability. I think that's the big thing is in a game like Caledonia and Rockford coming up now, I think he's going to be probably asked to make some more of those big plays instead of just kind of running the ship and making sure things stay under control there. So I think you have to be impressed with what he's done to this point, and I think definitely has the potential for some big games coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, I just want to touch on West Ottawa, too, because we kind of focus mostly on Grandville, but this team's coming for Pat Collins. Caden Forbes is going to be the best running back in the area, I think, if he isn't already.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be the best back next year. He did some things in this game that just blew your mind. They've got a couple different options at quarterback. I know Chapa, who's junior, had a touchdown. Like, they've got a couple different options coming down the stretch as well. Like, this team at the defense obviously was solid, lowest point total Grandville seen all year. Like, they're coming in a hurry, and there are some kind of senior-led teams around this area right now that are maybe at the top of things in the OK Red that better be looking quick because West Ottawa is going to be back very shortly, and I think next year probably.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they definitely flashed some things to where this team is definitely on the right trend now. I mean, they've finally able to get a couple wins, and even though weren't able to win either of these games that they've had, these last couple big games against Grandville this past week, but yeah, you can see the potential now. I mean, you can see the players there. Forbes had more rushing yards, I think, in the first half than any other team had as far as the running back position goes again. Throughout an entire game against the Bulldogs, and so he's special. I mean,
my goodness,
he's got a burst and an ability to stay on his feet. He was running through 3 or 4 different guys, just bouncing off, spinning out of tackles. I mean, he kind of showed the full display of what you're looking for in a high school running back.
The touchdown he scored was the most insane thing. Go back and we've got the Grandville Athletics YouTube feed up here. Go find it if you weren't able to see it, and you can hear my delay in the radio call because I wasn't sure if I had really seen what I just saw. Mike Medeiros, who again is 310 pounds, comes just busting through right up the gut of this offensive line. He's just straight through, right into Forbes. It looks like he's going to take Forbes' head off. This poor sophomore, and he just bounces off him and dives in the end zone.
Yep.
I mean, he is really absolutely incredible. You know, they've got some other younger guys. Like, this program's coming quickly, and it's impressive seeing they might still be a playoff team this year. I mean, we have to wait and see how things go. Like we said on the broadcast, if they take care of business against Grand Haven, if they take care of business against Jenison, and then they're able to beat, say, East Kentwood or Hudsonville or Rockford or Caledonia, they've already played Rockford, like they'll get to 5 wins, they're probably in the playoffs. Then we'll take a look at some of the playoff stuff a little bit later on as well. But no, that's where they're at, and that is a look back. Grandville 35, West Ottawa 14, as Grandville goes to 4-0 on the year and sets them up for Caledonia. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to step aside. When we come back, it's Grandville senior outside linebacker Ayden Doran is going to join the program. And then after that, we're going to break it down. Grandville, Caledonia, maybe the game of the year in West Michigan when it's all said and done. We'll see how things play out, but certainly that could be the direction it's going. We'll be right back here on Game Night.
Daniel the deer danced everywhere. He pranced through fields and jigged through rivers. Then he saw it. What a stage! A place no deer had dared dance before. The hood of a brand new car.
Hey, my car!
And the car was covered, thanks to Farmers Insurance. Deer Dance Floor, December 1st, 2014. Talk to a farmer's agent. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Contact the Scott Bates Agency today, 616-531-3441. A proud supporter of MichiganGameNight.com.
I'm Randy Hansen, president of Centennial Securities. I've heard it said that professional coaches measure success in rings, college coaches measure success in championships, and high school coaches measure it in titles. But youth coaches measure success in smiles. At Centennial Securities, we're like the youth coach. Our success is measured by the smiles on the faces of our satisfied clients. If you're a Centennial Securities customer, you know what I mean. If you're not, isn't it about time?
Member SIPC and FINRA.
And welcome back, everyone, to Michigan Game Night and the Captain's Corner segment. This week, we are joined by Grandville senior outside linebacker and captain, Ayden Doran. First, Ayden, how are you doing tonight, and thanks for your time.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
All right, it is our pleasure, and, of course, coming off yet another win for you guys, now 4-0 on the season after taking down West Ottawa on homecoming. I guess first off, talk kind of generically from the team perspective about how big of a win it is with, of course, a couple big matchups coming up to get that homecoming win and to play well coming into this middle part of the season.
Yeah, I think defensively is definitely our best game. We kind of really put it all together this week, and which was great, especially since it was homecoming night with a big crowd. So that was great, and going forward, that really gives us a lot of confidence in our ability.
Absolutely, I agree on the defensive performance, and that was actually the next thing I was going to get in with you. I mean, the defense realistically just gives up one score with the first team out there. The one score West Ottawa got, they kind of marched down the field out of more of a power set. You guys quickly adapted, shut it down again. I mean, tell me about the defensive performance, kind of getting into it a little bit, how good you feel as a defense right now coming off that sort of solid performance, stopping the run game and the pass game really effectively.
Yeah, I mean, the D-line did really well, and getting their runners outside to the outside linebackers and the corners, and we just really stopped their run pretty well. And we just communicated really well that game and just put it all together.
Yeah, this is something I kind of asked Drew last week as well, but I'll kind of echo it to you. When you look at the start to your season, how important do you think it's been from a defensive perspective to see all these different kinds of teams? You saw kind of more of the four-wide spread sets against Grand Blanc, more of the power stuff against Byron Center, Hudsonville somewhere in the middle, especially when you look at the next couple weeks and seeing some of those different kinds of systems. How important was it to get to see kind of everything across the board with really good teams in the first couple weeks?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's helped a ton, being able to adapt and really seeing 4 completely different teams so far will really help us for the next 5 weeks ahead, and then further to just be able to adapt quick and play anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at your role, such an important one, and we've talked about since KJ Landis came in, this role that you play, kind of outside linebacker, D-end, even having to move out in coverage sometimes, just a hybrid jack of all trades type of position quite often. Tell me a little bit about, kind of from your perspective, what your role on this defense is, and kind of some of the mental element to playing in so many different spots and moving around to kind of help fool the offense a little bit.
I mean, for sure, with my position, the other side of me where Logan Stockwell plays is a lot mentally to be able to know what you have to do in pass coverage, what you have to do in run, and just a lot of different aspects. But I mean, it's very important for us to communicate to both the D linemen and the defensive backs, like what's going on and making sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of asked a similar thing to Drew as well, because I'm always so fascinated in Coach Landis' defense. It's so fun to kind of see some of the different things you guys do. But talk about yourself as a senior leader. So this team, you have a couple other seniors, talk about Logan and other guys around you, but a lot of guys filling into new roles at linebacker, at the defensive line as well. Tell me about that kind of senior leadership role you have to take as, both maybe a rah-rah leader as well as helping with the communication and helping keep those guys in line to make sure everything is across straight.
Yeah, for sure. Just helping us always keep our heads up, when big plays happen, but then helping remind like a Reed Graverson, our sophomore linebacker, just helping him, making sure he's got the reads right, because it can be overwhelming as a new guy. And when Terry's in and Easton, when he's out there, just helping get those guys in the right spots, and then it all working together.
Hey, tell me a little bit. I mean, you just mentioned 3 different underclassmen on this defense, but I mean, tell me a little bit about those, 3 guys, everyone else as well, but kind of just the incredible young talent that this team has that you get to play with must be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, coming in, we knew we lost a lot of older talent, so we had to find those new guys that could play, and especially those 3. And Cott is still a junior, and just all these guys fitting in have really stepped up, and which I think at the beginning of the season, nobody really thought that it was going to be too great with having that many young guys starting or playing that much, but they've learned quick. And the older guys have really stepped up to lead them and show them how it's done. So it's worked very well for us so far.
Yeah, it's such an impressive unit. Again, Ayden Doran, Grandville senior outside linebacker, joining us here on Michigan Game Night. And Ayden, let's kind of look ahead a little bit. I know I've seen some kind of different posts and things going on in terms of you playing at the next level. So tell me a little bit about kind of some of the college choices and different things you have going on right now looking ahead to next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely my plan, is to hopefully play at the next level. I mean, Adrian College has offered me, so there's an option. And hopefully through this season we'll get a couple more. Talking to a couple local schools like Wheaton and maybe Albion, where some former players are playing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what my goal is.
No, I can certainly say. I mean, what you're able to do on this Grandville defense, doing so many different roles, I certainly think that it would be something that any coach at the next level would want. And all right, I mean, we saved it to the end. Let's get to it. Caledonia. I mean, this might wind up being the game of the year by the time we get to the end of the season and take a look back at things. I guess first generically, kind of tell me, you're early in the week with some of the prep and stuff. Tell me some of the things that you're most kind of looking at right here for Caledonia and getting amped up about for this incredible matchup.
I mean, they are a great team. They have weapons about everywhere. They have great defense. They play well together. And then, I mean, their two main guys, their quarterback Mason and Brock, their running back, are both two very good skill players and just threats everywhere. So really trying to stop them and what they do best is going to be our biggest goal.
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to be a fascinating matchup for sure. I mean, tell me about the excitement level for a game like this. I mean, you've spent the entire season now to this point in time really getting into the frame of setting yourself up for this Caledonia matchup, obviously Rockford the next week. I mean, it just as a player has to really make it more exciting to get up each day as you get closer to a game like this.
Oh, yeah. Just the atmosphere just keeps getting, better and better by the days going forward and getting closer to it. And especially looking back on last year and how that was not a fun loss for us, and seeing how we can come back a bit bigger and better this year is, makes it a really big, huge game for us.
Absolutely. It is going to be a fascinating and thrilling game for certain. Grandville, Caledonia. Ayden Doran, Grandville outside linebacker, joining us today on Captain's Corner. And thank you again for your time, Ayden, and good luck out there on Friday night.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back here on MGN. And welcome back, everyone, to the MGN Football Tailgate Report. Nathan Chandler, thanks again to Ayden Doran for coming on. Great insight from him. And like I said to him, certainly the kind of player, Chandler, I'll let you talk on this as well, that in terms of looking at college coaches, especially when you kind of think about the D3 level and some of the schools that he's had look at him so far, just on your defense at linebacker, he does everything. So he's the exact guy you want on your team. We've seen that the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, you would think pretty much any coach would want a player like that. I mean, when you're looking at a guy that's coachable like that can play multiple positions, has a high motor, I mean, does pretty much anything and does it well. So I have to imagine any coach would be glad to have a guy like him.
And as we say every year, and this for the time being is going to be our last installment of the Captain's Corner. Well, we've made it through all the captains. So, obviously, but in terms of players, kind of for the time being, that's probably going to be able to go back to a couple coaches, get maybe Coach Stiegel, Coach Landis on in the next couple weeks. By the way, we are undecided on next week what exactly, if we'll have a show or not. The Brock Conkle and Company from Michigan Sports Radio will have the live coverage of the game. I'm actually going to be in Detroit. If you're an auto racing fan, make sure you find your way out to the M1 Concourse in Detroit. Really incredible event, the American Speed Festival. I am the lead MCPA, whatever it is, for that event. So that's part of what's going on. But I say that long story, just a quick diversion. Stay tuned to us on social media to find out what exactly our schedule looks like in terms of this show next week. But as back onto my point, as I always say, getting to talk to these guys, like this program does such an incredible job of turning out well-adjusted. I'm amazed. Like these guys, when we talk to them, we've done this a couple times. We have not had a single guy that's difficult to talk to or what. They're all great at it. They all can do media. They all are very smart. I'm always really impressed by Coach Stiegel and Grandville and what they're able to churn out. I mean, they're ahead of where I was in high school. I know for sure. Always. So just a note to that. Always great to get to talk to those guys, and hopefully we'll have a couple more coming up as well. We'll see what's going on in the next couple weeks. But Week 5, Grandville, Caledonia. So we're going to first here play some of the highlights from last year. 24-14, Caledonia beat Grandville, Chandler. And right now, this is AP number 4, Caledonia, number 8 in the state in Division I, Grandville. I mean, it just sets it up. This has always been a great battle, even on years where Caledonia maybe was a little bit down. Certainly not the case for this year, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a lot of hype coming around this Caledonia team, and rightfully so. They've got a lot of talent, and it shows. They've had a couple impressive weeks, and it's all building up to this one. Both teams undefeated coming into it, and yeah, I mean, even when either team was up or down, usually we've seen this matchup late in the season, and there's been some real good games going back and forth between these two.
And last year, I mean, it was a struggle for Grandville. I mean, you can kind of see the score throughout the night, 21-7 at this point in the third quarter. They lose by 10. Weren't able to get much movement. Caledonia went on these long, tough drives against them. I mean, it's strength on strength in this game. It always has been, and there's even that much more energy because of kind of the past experience between these two teams.
Yeah, I think both teams really trying to control the trenches, and you saw in that matchup last year, they had some big guys along the offensive and defensive line. They were really able to take Grandville out of what they like to do, especially on offense, and you don't see many teams do that. I mean, when you're talking about teams that can match up against the T like that and go strength on strength and come away with a win in that battle, there's very few teams, and Caledonia showed that they were capable of it.
Yeah, of course, Derek Pennington, his second year now, came over from Zeeland East and has implemented his systems that we'll get into in just a second. But last year, Grandville 245 total yards, Caledonia 324. Caledonia rushed for 271 in that game. So that's also something consistent with what they've been doing all year long. Regardless, this season they've become one of the top teams in the state. Let's talk about Caledonia. Let's talk about this system. We'll put up their game, so their highlights from Holt as we talk about it a little bit right here, Chandler. But this is a team, first off, on offense. We talk about the power spread, typically base through receiver set. They use an H-back or a wing-back, Derek Pennington Jr., the coach's son. Read option is a note I had out of that look. Their offense is going to kind of take it to you. You're going to know what's coming, and they're going to run it almost every play, and it seems to just keep working.
Yeah, I mean, it's deflating when you've got an offense that can just continue to run that over and over, and they're going to be successful. And we've seen some teams do it in the past against the Bulldogs. When a team stays dedicated to the read option and they've got a quarterback capable that you have to respect running the football, it can be very difficult, especially when you've got a guy that plays the running back position as well that is a serious threat.
Yeah, and we'll talk about some of those key guys in just a second. Defensively, powerful front line, typically a 3-down base. I went back through last year. They ran a 3-down, 2 standing edge, 2 high safety look against Grandville. I mean, you know what you're getting into. They're big up front. They're tough, both sides of the ball, but especially the defense. They're going to make it really, really tough to run on them. And a lot of times they don't even have to run blitz to stop this attack because they're so big and they just maul you up front.
Yeah, they really can do a lot of things when they're able to control like that. When you've got guys along the defensive line that can control their assignments, allows the rest of the defense to play to their assignments a lot better as well. And last year was the first year. I mean, there'd been years Caledonia had won against Grandville, but last year was the first year they really shut down the T offense. Yeah. And I think that has to do with the coaching from head coach Pennington there, kind of having a game plan coming into this one of how to shut it down. Holding the Bulldogs to only 14 points is a serious accomplishment.
Yeah, absolutely it is. All right, some of the key players that we'll get into. We'll talk about some of the matchups as we go on in this, but let's talk about some of these Caledonia key players. First off, Mason McKenzie, their senior quarterback. He's entered some different Mr. Football watch lists as he's gotten into his senior season here, and he can beat you with his legs. He can beat you with his arm. He did throw an interception against Hudsonville last week early in the game. Hudsonville went up 14-0 in that game before Caledonia came back and with 40 unanswered down the stretch in that football game. But yeah, again, like McKenzie is just a guy. We see him now. He's played a little bit his sophomore year. Of course, really took over with his power spread system coming in. Just dangerous, man. He is so tough.
Yeah, they've really kind of built this offense to play to his strengths now, to where he's a serious threat. You could see the potential in years past in the old system that he was a playmaker, but now the offense is really suited around him to where he can be a threat, both running the football, as we talked about with the read option. They'll get him involved, through the quarterback power runs as well, but also throws a really nice ball as well. I mean, doesn't get asked to throw the football a ton, and part of that's maybe been because they've been up big in a lot of these games, but has the ability to do that as well.
Yeah, for sure. We get now a couple guys that are D1 MAC level players in terms of offers already as juniors, starting with the junior Brock Townsend. They're incredibly quick, incredibly shifty running back. We saw him a year ago. Of course, you see like on this play, he'll come from the slot as well sometimes, but I mean, this guy's tough. He's got multiple MAC offers. I think Toledo, Western Central maybe are the ones out there. I can't quite exactly remember. Already MAC offers. He's just tough. And again, you're going to look at McKenzie's going to run for 150. He's going to run for 150 because they run the read option. Half the time it goes to him, half the time it goes to McKenzie, and it seems to always work.
Yeah, I mean, with two threats like that, you got to pick your poison, and neither one's going to be fun to deal with. But what was it, 5 touchdowns last week, I believe, for Townsend. Just an incredible a guy that they can really turn to. He's just a pinball running back, kind of is a fun way to describe it, I guess. He just kind of bounces off guys, kind of like what we saw from Forbes last week. But his ability to just kind of turn a nothing play into something. I think this Bulldogs defense has really thrived on getting negative plays in the running game and putting a defense behind. But his ability to make a man miss at the line or at least fall forward, get a couple yards, and then obviously the big playability there as well.
Yeah, and I was going to say, that's what I was going to say. Like, pinball, but also he's crazy quick. And again, you see more of the stats that come up from their first game there against Holt. 276 rushing yards, 330. Like, they're just going to run it that way. They'll throw it 8 to 10 times maybe a game if they don't have to throw it more. Like, it's pretty simple what they're going to do to you. One more Matt guy on this team. We mentioned him a minute ago. Their H-back or tight end, play some outside backer as well. Derek Pennington Jr. So here's what we know about him. Really high IQ, terrific blocker. Can catch the ball as well some, but just a really smart player. He's got MAC offers out there as well. But the thing about Pennington that it comes back to is how good he is as a smart blocker. Defensively makes the right play, but focusing on the offense. When you have a guy that's a good blocker and knows the system, when you're running the read option, when you spread them 3 wide, so you're going to get that defense kind of in their nickel package then a lot of times with a 3-receiver set, even though they know you're running, but they have to honor it because you're spreading it out a little bit. So then you don't have quite as much inside. So you have that one guy that's kind of being used as a fullback really more than anything out of the H-back position. When he's smart, when he knows what he's doing in that system, when he's able to find that loose man in those option plays, man, that makes it that much more that dangerous because he's the key that gets the quarterback and the running back on the option into the second level.
Yeah, and a lot of times his assignment is going to be the one, as you said, that makes or breaks the play. And you would hope as a coach's kid, you know the system, right?
Right.
I mean, he's been working under it now for a while and kind of knows the ins and outs, and of course can know his role when it comes to blocking. So yeah, I mean, they talked about it last week that they were going to run behind the H-back position, which is Pennington. They were going to run behind him specifically. That was the game plan. They were going to follow him, let him open up the lanes, and then trust your talent running the football from there. But yeah, when you've got a guy like that can win that one-on-one block and knows where to be, can get across the field, still has the speed to cover a lot of ground. He can cover the field to get to the second level. Really helps out the running game.
Talk about the big guys up front. We talked about them a minute ago. We'll talk about them as a unit. They had to replace 3 of 5 guys on their unbelievable offensive line from last year. They seem to be filling in really well. They got big again. I mean, they just maul you both sides of the ball. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah, no, they're very aggressive, able to really control, and that's for all the things that the Bulldogs have gone up against so far earlier in the season. This is maybe the best offensive and defensive line put together that they're going to go against, at least to this point. They've played a lot of teams that can spread you out, can run the football, can throw the football, but a team that can really win at the line of scrimmage. I think this is going to be a new test for the Bulldogs.
Talking about some key matchups coming into this game. When you look at Grandville, Caledonia, again, top 10 teams in the state, so good. They do the same thing, but in different ways. For Grandville defensively, the role of the linebackers, and in particular, I'm thinking Ayden as the boundary safety, the strong safety, to help stop that run game, to turn what could be 15, 20-yard runs, keep them at 5-yard runs. That, I think, is where the game's going to be won a lot, because you know Caledonia's going to get movement on you. It's likely going to be a lowish scoring game, kind of, because both teams are likely going to want to run the ball on more sustained type drives, even though there's going to be a high percentage, they're going to score a lot both sides. The score, it's not going to be 50-50. It might be 30-30, and that's a crazy high scoring game because both teams didn't, they scored every time. So when it comes down to if both teams are getting maybe one possession a quarter, like last year, and it comes down to who makes one stop, that guy making the shoestring tackle to turn the gain of 8 into a gain of 4, turn the gain of 20 into the gain of 8 and stopping the first down, I think that's where the game's going to be won or lost for both teams. You can say the same thing for Caledonia and their secondary as well.
Yeah, I think the game plan, I mean, when you're dealing with that much talent for both sides on the defensive end, when you're going against an offense with a lot of talent, is just try to make them drive the length of the field, however you need to do it. Just limit the big plays. Of course, that sounds, cliche, and of course, you're trying to limit the big plays. But yeah, I mean, if you're able to make a team execute on 10 plays plus going down the field, you're going to take your chances that you're able to force the opposing team into a mistake, able to come away with a takeaway or something like that, rather than if you are throwing the ball short, or you're running the read option and just getting chunk plays after time, and able to limit that versus the long 80-yard run down the field, you're going to take your chance on the defense that way.
Jaden Terry. It just feels like, of course, this is the game where we'd be talking about Tyson Mann just relentlessly, I think, if he were going to be in. And, we can say the same. I think you're going to have to see some of the pass game. We'll talk about that probably in a second as well. But I feel like from a run game perspective, getting the yards when they need it, this to me feels like the game that the freshman Jaden Terry is going to have to, and I believe has a chance to hit that next level to help do a lot of big things Grandville needs. Because you feel like Kopko and the trap game is going to be shut down for the most part, like against Hudsonville. Sadinsky is still getting his feet under him a little bit, and we're going to learn more. It just feels like the game where Terry's going to have to come in on 3rd and 4 and get 5, and he's going to, if they're going to win, that's what's going to come to it. You hate to say, like, the freshman is the whole point of the game, but that's kind of where it is. Like, it feels like that for Terry. This is the game we're going to potentially see that real breakout game.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think this is going to be the game where you've got the most situations where you're trying to convert on those third and fourth downs where you're 3, 4, or 5 yards, even a 3rd and medium situation where you're still going to run the football. And yeah, it probably would be Tyson Mann if he were healthy. He's been the guy that they showed early on that was going to be the guy they were going to give the football to, and now I think it's shown to be Terry throughout the last game and a half that he's going to be the guy now. And so, yeah, I think a lot of times you see the fullback trap used to set up the run game on the outside to guys like Jaden Terry, and I think this is one of those games where you kind of just got to get it to Terry and let him take over, and then use that to open up the inside trap game a little bit more, kind of reverse what maybe the normal kind of setup would be there. But yeah, I think you just have to try to get him involved. I don't want to obviously overwork him or anything like that and force feed him the football, but when you've got a guy like that in the backfield that you think can take over a game that way, this is his chance to shine.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about the pass game for both teams. We talked so much about the run game. With 2 good defenses, there's probably going to be points where both teams are going to have to pass. They do it in different ways. Caledonia, remember, they're built in. They're already spread out. You've got Townsend can motion out as well. Justice Reed, a terrific, typically slot receiver that they utilize. A couple bigger guys on the outside as well. McKenzie throwing the ball again. Threw a pick last week. The Bulldogs, we know. It's the play action. It's the different looks. It's getting Carson Smith in space. We know Sadinsky plays a big role. The pass game isn't going to be the big part of the game. It's, again, going to maybe be, we might see a grand total of 10 passes in this game, 15 passes. But you know what? That might be where the game's won or lost. That might be where the one drive, who gets one more score, that might be where it comes from.
Yeah, as you said, neither team going to come out and throw the football a lot, but both teams are going to be setting that up the entire time where if the run game is being taken away from them, they've got the ability to go over the top. And for the Bulldogs, yeah, that's more the play action pass, the rollouts with Carson Smith. We've seen a lot of Sadinsky, LaCroix the last couple weeks as well, both down the field and in the flat. So I think, the Bulldogs, we've seen them kind of keep it under wraps a little bit, haven't had to flash too much of the play-action pass game. I'm sure there's more in that playbook that's waiting to be broken out in a game like this if it's close down the stretch. But same thing for the Fighting Scots when they've got some playmakers. A lot of times for the offense like that, you're going to have to bring your linebackers and safeties up and try to play some assignments on the quarterback and the running back running the football. They've got the ability to throw the football down the field as well. And so, yeah, that's probably not going to be 10 passing attempts or anything, but if they're setting you up for the run and really running the ball, getting some motions back and forth, getting your guys moving across the field, and then the ability to all of a sudden hit the ball down the field, it's going to be both teams trying to watch out for that as the game goes along.
When you look at the game, I'm going to ask you 2 questions here, and this is something we do in the pregame show sometimes too. If Grandville wins this game, they do blank, and then the same thing for Caledonia. So if Grandville's going to win this game, what do you think is the number one thing that they're going to do well to win this football game? I think so many things.
Yeah, there's so many things.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a complete game. I mean, obviously, it's going to not just be one specific thing. But I mean, we kind of talked about it in limiting the big plays when you're on the defensive side like that. I mean,
I agree.
Just sure tackling. I mean, we've seen it from this group. This is probably also the most talented backfield that they've gone against to this point as well. So, I mean, when you're talking about a quarterback running back combo, I just think you have to have some sure tackling. Can't let guys bounce off from you and have big runs like that. If they can come up and stop the running game where they're only getting a couple yards, I think that puts them in a good spot.
And for Caledonia, I'm going to maybe propose my own thing. It is a high IQ read option because Grandville does so many different things messing with their front that could mess with Caledonia some. I feel like if they're going to make their number one play work, it's going to have to be a really high IQ type game in the way they run it. And if they run it, if Caledonia is able to just keep the advantage regardless of what Grandville throws at them with the read option, Caledonia will win this game. Like, I'll just put it out there right now, even as the Grandville homer that's got Grandville number one in my power rankings the last few weeks. Like, if Caledonia does what they can do through the read option and through some of their power run game stuff, they will win this football game. But I'm not saying I don't think they 100% are going to be able to do what they want like they've been able to do all year long. I think that's the X factor. So it's actually kind of a Grandville X factor on messing with the Caledonia offense.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting. We both went to the Caledonia offense and Grandville defense side of the football. I think there's less questions. I mean, not that that's not going to be interesting, but less questions on the other end of the Grandville offense against the Caledonia defense. You've kind of seen what the Bulldogs offense is.
Against good teams, against the team. You've seen Hudson, you've seen Byron Center. Like, we kind of already know roughly what it's going to look like.
And, of course, we talked about the Scots last year, able to shut them down for only 14 points, but I still think you feel pretty good about the Bulldogs offense going into this. It's going to be a good defense, but you hope that they can continue the role that they've been on. It's more going to be about how much can the Bulldogs defense, who's played phenomenally, we've talked about, hyped them up, and talked to a lot of the players on that side of the football. What can they do to stop and at least just try to slow down Caledonia?
All right, 6:30 p.m. on Friday, Grandville, Caledonia. This is the big one. 4-0, top 10 teams in the state, and I certainly cannot wait. MichiganSportsRadio.com/MGN. We'll have streams on Twitter and Facebook. We'll actually have the Twitter stream working. I think we had some issues with that last week. The stream was working. It just didn't get posted to Twitter, I don't think. So we'll make sure to get that actually up this week. And, we'll fire the social media intern again, which I'm still going to say exists for every time I fire him. It certainly isn't just me. That's going on. Of course, Grandville Athletics YouTube video feed we will be on that as well. So, that's it. I can't wait. It's going to be such a good game. We're going to step aside one more time. When we come back, we are going to get around the area, do some playoff preview, rank the OK Red Power Rankings, do some OK Power 6, and, and we'll get out of here. Sound good?
Sounds good.
We'll be right back.
The sinister cries haunted Mary through the night. Dawn neared, and still the voice tormented her. She ran towards the safety of her car, flung open the door, and a coyote had somehow gotten locked inside. But the damaged interior was covered, thanks to Farmers Insurance. Coyote Carpool, August 1st, 2015. Talk to a farmer's agent. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Contact the Scott Bates Agency today, 616-531-3441. A proud supporter of MichiganGameNight.com.
Can you identify your number one personal trait? The thing that you do better than most others? If not, this may be a good time to think this through. If you're really good at writing, then why use the phone? If you're great on the phone, why use email? If you have exceptional human relation skills, why sit back and let others lead? I'm Randy Hansen, president of Centennial Securities Company. Playing to our strengths is something we do very well at Centennial. And if you're already a customer, you know what I mean. If not, isn't it about time?
Member SIPC and FINRA.
Welcome back to the Tailgate Report. Nate and Chandler. All right, time to go around the area and start breaking some things down. We start, as we did a week ago, with snoozetoyou.com. Of course, Snooze is always at the Grandville games. You might see him down there on the sideline. Has highlights as well. Talk to him before the games always. And, have his site up because this is the place to go in terms of if you want what playoff matchups look like. And, again, you may be saying, it's way too early for playoff projections on a show like this. And you know what? I agree with you. But when Snooze gives us content, we use the content. And this always is great content. You check it out. He's got his mapatology, as he calls it, and you can pull up the map as well to see where all these teams are currently going to be placed in a playoff scenario. So here's what we're looking at right now. We'll kind of go around the area. We'll obviously start in D1, which, of course, this game, our game on Friday, has such a big impact on. So right now, Division 1, Region 1, District 1, Grandville 1 seed, Bulldogs up to 1, West Ottawa the 4 seed, and then Rockford, Grand Rapids Union. Expect this to shift around some still down the stretch. We'll have to see where Hudsonville winds up. Their road getting tougher and tougher by the week at this point in time to make the playoffs. But again, West Ottawa also in a place where they're going to have to win. Honestly, West Ottawa, Hudsonville probably is going to be a win to get in playoff game the way it's setting up right now.
I was thinking the same thing, and they play this week. So I think we learn a lot this week as to if whoever wins that game, if Hudsonville is able to win, they're on the path, at least starting on the path towards making their way back to the playoffs. If West Ottawa wins that game, I think the path is then there for them, where they've got to win a couple more games yet, but they've got a couple winnable games from what they've shown early in the season.
Hudsonville's starting 0-6. Not off the table yet either. I mean, after what we saw from West Ottawa, West Ottawa defensively I think was a little better against Grandville than Hudsonville was defensively. So, I don't know. And then District 2, which is where East Kentwood and Caledonia are getting bumped to. Caledonia, of course, the 1 seed. East Kentwood right now the 2 seed. They have Holt and Grand Ledge. That's the more middle of the state place. That's where you want to be right now, I have to say, in terms of Division 1. And I mentioned it last week's show. I made the prediction that whoever comes out of Region 1 will make it to Ford Field. And I still... Do I still believe that? Oh, I might not. We're live time doing this. I just saw that West Bloomfield, Brighton. I may not believe what I said. Okay, we might back up a little bit. Very good chance for whoever comes out of that region to go to Ford Field. But I didn't look at this. I forgot West Bloomfield's going to be over there. Oops. Okay. That's where things are setting up in Division 1. Let's take a look around some of the other divisions as well. We go to Division 2. So Division 2, Forest Hill Central keeps winning. They right now are number 1. They got Blair in center, which will be an incredible Week 1 matchup. Reese Puffer, 3-1. They keep winning, and they're here up to the 2 seed now. They're ahead of Mona Shores at the moment. So right now, it'll be Reese Puffer hosting Mona Shores in the West Michigan areas Division 2 district. That's a murderer's row district, of course.
Yeah, anytime you've got a team like Mona Shores is going to be the 3 seed there in a district like that. That's going to be a tough one. Obviously, Byron Center still getting in there at 2-2. They've looked better these last couple weeks after we've seen them against Grandville, but a team that could be get that rematch against Forest Hill Central.
Division 3 right now, again after 4 weeks in the year, so we're approaching the halfway point on the season. Let's see. We got to go down to Region 2. Another murderer's row: Muskegon, Coopersville, Zeeland West, Lowell. Right now, most notably to me, the fact that Muskegon already above Zeeland West. That is the matchup this week, I believe.
Yep.
So those two are going to answer a lot of questions. I think if I could choose one game that isn't ours in the area to be at, that would be the game. Yeah,
I think that's going to be a huge one when you're talking about two different types of systems like that going against each other, and both looking very good early on in the season. That district is going to be swung quite a bit depending on the outcome of that game.
Can I make another bold prediction? Whoever comes out of district, I'm not going to even say region, whoever comes out of District 11 will go to Ford Field. I can say that much. Wait. Oh, DeWitt. Actually, DeWitt's kind of, yes, whoever comes out of District 11, we're just making bold predictions. Whoever comes out of Region 2, District 1 here, going to Ford Field in Division 3. So we're going to make that prediction again. Now, of course, we learned my predictions mean nothing because I just changed it after 1 week in the other one because I actually looked at the map for the first time. Division 4, Unity Christian is a playoff team. They're a 3 seed right now. Feel a little bad for Ludington maybe long term. We said that Unity might go on a winning streak and win the rest of the year, and guess what? After we declared them potentially dead, they are potentially going to do that here as they run through. South Christian, the 1 seed, boy, they look really good. They keep winning. I will note, looking ahead for our next segment, they did beat Cedar Springs pretty comfortably. Grand Rapids Catholic Central didn't do that. Forest Hills Eastern off to a good start. Grand Rapids Christian in there. Wayland. Again, a lot of tough ones in here. And, of course, the D4 team from here went to the state championship last year. I think that could be true again. But right now, Unity, Whitehall, very good. That's a potential interesting matchup. I think that's probably what we're looking at that district coming down to. But Unity in a good place. If they get this thing turned around, they got Hamilton this week. So I can say this is a Hamilton grab. They're going to win by 70. If they can get things turned around in that matchup, or the rest of the season, I'd say they're not that mad. They don't have to turn that match around. If they get things rolling, South Christian and company have got to be nervous because when Unity's going, they're going, and it's starting to make this even more interesting on the west side in D4.
Yeah, I think Unity finally bouncing back, getting a couple wins in a row. I think still not looking quite as dominant or nowhere near as dominant as what they were last year, but I think you still have to be worried about them potentially figuring it out and getting it together now, stringing a couple wins. And if they are able to get into the playoffs there, regardless of what the seed is, that they've got the experience, and the coaching staff obviously haven't been there, kind of knows what to expect.
Edwardsburg will be hanging out in the quarterfinal, or the semifinal, I should say, waiting for whoever comes out of that area. They did lose to West Catholic, and this is wild. Absolutely wild, folks. Division 5, Catholic Central, not a 1 seed right now. It's Muskegon Oak Ridge. Now, with that said, I'm going to make the prediction that Catholic Central still goes to the state championship game. Is that crazy? I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think so either. That's probably the most likely scenario.
Yeah, we'll see. But look at everyone 4-0 in District 2 in Region 1 for Division 5. So, yeah, that's Belding, of course. And Belding's got a big game this week against Sparta, which when we get to our Power 6, the Silver is an absolute upheaval right now. Absolute upheaval, as it always is. Let's see, Division 6, I mean, really, we're looking at West Catholic. Muskegon Catholic, look, this is better now. This is a little better than what it was before, how things are working out. Right now, West Catholic, Catholic Central, that's an interesting battle for certain. Kent City, Montague in there. But yeah, I mean, right now, West Catholic's got to be feeling real good, I think, still about their positioning with things. Look at, so this is, like, Buchanan, all these teams over here got bumped to the other side of the bracket this week because they were with West Catholic, so they got bumped all the way over here. So that's interesting to see as of right now. Of course, things changing again. I don't know. We do this, but, I mean, it's fun to see. I love watching it each and every week. SnoozeToYou.com is one of, like, my bookmarks this time of year for certain that I'm always checking. But, yeah, I mean, there's only so much we can say for certain or learn at this point in time. But now, after this week, I think now we're past halfway after this week, and then I think it's really legit for us to start shaping things up.
Yeah, you get a little clearer picture. You kind of can anticipate some of the matchups coming up and get a better idea. I do think West Catholic, they're looking at potentially going undefeated. So I think that one, obviously, if they go undefeated, likely going to stay in that exact spot.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And that'll be interesting how things go down the stretch. All right, let's do some rankings. We'll start with our OK Red Power Rankings, as we do each week. And I don't know about you, but I actually have some changes this week. You might not have any, actually, but not to preview, but I actually have some changes that I decided to make arbitrarily, potentially, because I'm a company man and I'm trying to spruce up the show this week.
Okay.
And potentially that might be a little bit of why I've ranked things a certain way as we head into this weekend's game that we have coverage of, which wasn't 1 versus 2 before, but maybe is now. We're going to find out. All right, we'll start, of course, as you know what we do. We'll go bottom 3 and then work our way up 3 at a time. So I'll start with the bottom 3. 7, I have Jenison. 6, I have West Ottawa. And then that means 8 was Grand Haven. I put Grand Haven in their own category now because they I don't know what's going on there. It's crazy that a program, as you may have seen, they had to cancel the game against Rockford, that a program of that size, a school of that size, is to a point that they had to cancel a game against a team like Rockford. It's insane, but besides that, Jenison, I think, fits in pretty solidly at 7. I think West Ottawa is primed to be in a position to go above 6, but I'm going to keep them locked in there.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm with you on Grand Haven at 8. As you said, probably a pretty distant 8 there.
Do you still have West Ottawa 7?
I do. So I'm sticking with it. This is just me sticking with my take again because I got to see it through. And so until I see West Ottawa Jenison, I'm gonna roll with it this way. So I'm gonna go Jenison 6, West Ottawa 7. I have been encouraged that West Ottawa played closely against Rockford for a quarter or two, and then showed some flashes against Grandville. So I think there's potential I'm wrong there, but I'm not fully willing to admit that yet.
All right, middle 3 teams now. CT, so 5-4-3. 5-4-3. I'll let you go this time.
All right, so I'll spoil it and say I don't have many changes from last week. So I'm going to leave Hudsonville at 5, still winless, but still feel like they're a pretty decent team in the grand scheme of what the OK Red is. East Kentwood 4, they had a win over Jenison, which was kind of a close game, 2-score game there, so that's part of my reason going back to Jenison. But and then Caledonia at 3, but obviously going to have Caledonia kind of in that upper tier, less in the middle tier of what the OK Red is and more in with the top.
All right, so I'm going to kind of give away, obviously, if I didn't already. So, yeah, I've got the same at 5 and 4. I've got Hudsonville 5, East Kentwood 4, and again, that's willing to flip shortly. I think they, West Ottawa, East Kentwood now have kind of, the tiers are always changing, but I think now 4, 5, 6 is its own tier, that now like those teams have a chance to beat each other and to mess things up a little bit. 3, I'm going Rockford. Now, am I punishing them because there were rumors that they had leads to play a game and they chose to not play? that's not for me to say. But I'm not saying that hasn't happened before, but I'm also saying that 2020, we all know what happened. I'm getting this kicked off the air again. I own the company. Point two to that. They, to me, have been slightly less impressive with similar head-to-head matchups in there to some of the teams I have above them. And I think Caledonia has the most impressive OK Red win so far, the way that they handled Hudsonville the best in terms of what we've seen so far. So that's just kind of what I'm going. And that obviously leads, and I'll just give my top two now and let you wrap it up. But I am going to have Grandville still at 1 because I had them at 1. I had Caledonia at 2. And that's mostly because, even using that logic, Caledonia could have gone 1. But I didn't feel like in 1 week flipping them all the way to the top. But they had the impressive win. I think they now have the better OK Red win. I'll put them ahead of Rockford, and also it sets up this week to be that much better of a matchup.
I like that. I got to go for the best matchup there in your own personal rankings. I respect that. No, Caledonia 3. Then I had Grandville. I'm leaving at 2. Rockford at 1. I'm not punishing Rockford for not playing. I get what you're saying. I hear where you're coming from, but until I see it on the field. No, I think this game, obviously, that we've previewed quite a bit between Grandville and Caledonia is going to decide the 1 and 3. I mean, pretty clearly for me. I think whoever wins this game goes to 1 for me. Whoever loses this game drops to 3.
I agree.
So it's going to come down to that. It's so hard right now to decide between those 3, and so.
What if they go to quadruple overtime? Great game. Should they be 1 and 2? And what if Rockford loses?
Yeah. I'm under the assumption Rockford wins. So yeah, if Rockford loses, if Rockford loses, that definitely throws things off for me. If it is an all-time classic game, or even just a good game, both teams going back and forth, which could easily be the case, then I'd have to put a little more consideration into maybe bumping 1 and 2 for both of those teams and rewarding even the losing team.
I'd like to challenge your logic. You're very sure of yourself a lot of times. I like to just try to throw a wrench in there. So that's where we're at. I do have Grandville still at the top. You also don't change things with Rockford up there, but that's where we're gonna roll at this point in time. We'll see what happens. Going ahead here is someone's moving this week.
Yep.
That seems to be definitely finally what we can say, and then someone's moving the next week too. When Grandville and Rockford will come to blows again. Michigan Sports Radio will have the coverage of the Rockford game, even though we aren't going to be there. Explained it earlier in the show what I had going on. We'll kind of see in terms of this show and stuff, but a couple of great weeks. Of course, we're there this week. So, OK Power 6, so OK Red, Grandville, Rockford. Just mention that. Don't need to go into things too much deeper again. Again, we'll settle it this week. Things are going to get a lot more boring in the OK Red for this week because there's going to be almost no arguments one way or the other, unless I try to find some real mental gymnastics to still put Grandville 1, which, if they lose. If they win, they're definitely 1. But watch. I'll probably put Hudsonville back to 1 because that's the kind of thing I've been doing this year. OK Green, you can go first.
So I'm going to stick with my pick from the last couple weeks. I'm going Mona Shores, 3-1 overall. Beat Wyoming pretty comfortably this past week.
3 seed.
3 seed, as we talked about in the playoffs there.
Worse than Reese Puffer.
For right now. We'll see what happens there. No, I'm sticking with Mona Shores. I haven't seen anything to change my mind about that one. I do. I know where you're going with this pick. And I don't want to ruin it for you, but I think they've got a big game this week that'll help me decide that one.
They do. I have Zeeland West still, as I've been staying. And kind of how you previewed the Grandville Caledonia matchup, I think this is a similar one for me in regards to I think whoever wins that has a good chance to go 1. Because then if Zeeland West wins against Muskegon, then obviously they're the only one unbeaten, and they have a Muskegon win, so they have to go 1. If Muskegon wins, that means everyone has 1 loss. They have that big head-to-head against Zeeland West, and I think I feel comfortable in moving them back up to the top. They're getting healthy again. Mackay Guy is starting to look really good at quarterback, but for the time being, Zeeland West remains unbelievable. They beat Holland 56-0, which I believe would have been inside the number if you were allowed to be inside the number, outside the number for high school sports and whatever.
Yep.
So, yeah, not saying there would have been a number set, but if there was a negative
hypothetical number.
If there was a hypothetical number set in terms of what that game should have been, I think that would have been inside the number. So good job to Holland in their final game of the season on that. Okay, White, you go first.
All right, for the White, Forest Hill Central, another win over East Grand Rapids, which only had one win coming into the game. But I'm rolling with Forest Hill Central. I still like what I'm seeing from Byron Center, kind of hanging around there at 500 for right now. I just can't justify after the head-to-head loss, especially.
Right. No, you're exact. I'm the same. I mean, good 31-7 win over East Grand Rapids, who's really a down program this year at this point in time. But yeah, for FHC, I mean, they're the one team I think in this area that have really left no doubt. Probably we'll talk about West Catholic. I'm not going to give anything away. We'll talk about West Catholic later. But right now, they really have left no doubt. They've beaten their closest competitor. Maybe we'll see what Lowell can do down the stretch. Maybe they still have a chance to get them. But for the most part, Forest Hill Central has left no doubt at this point in time in the white. And in the area in general, they're flying under the radar like crazy, but they are leaving no doubt right now. OK Gold, I'm going to let you go first again here.
Okay.
So you go.
All right. I think I have an idea of what you've got going here, but I'm not going to do it. So I'm going Grand Rapids Catholic Central. Much more impressive win after a scare last week against Cedar Springs, dominating win. A little bit more like what we've seen from them classically throughout the years. I think I know where you're going here too, and I like the way you think, but I can't do it yet.
All we have to choose between unbelievable seasons for South Christian and for Grand Rapids Christian is we're going to do some high school football math, and we're going to see who they played their common opponent. This is all we can do in playing them in a similar point. And a very, very good, solid program common opponent. Grand Rapids Catholic Central all but lost to Cedar Springs. I mean, they were down in that game. They came back. Cedar Springs went for 2, didn't get it at the end. Otherwise, they would have won that game. 28-6. South Christian left no doubt both sides of the field. And it's their defense that really amazed me because they've traditionally been a great offensive team. Jake DeHaan, an incredible quarterback for them. But I think for this week, I think they deserve it. Eventually, they'll get the head-to-head. Eventually, Grand Rapids Catholic Central, I'm sure, will find their way back on top. But for the time being, based on what the resume is right now, I can't believe I'm going to say this for the first time in the history of the show. They deserve it. South Christian, I'm putting them atop the gold ahead of Grand Rapids Catholic Central right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy that the high standard that GRCC has been held to is one game where it was kind of close and we opened the door to South Christian.
Yes.
But I think, I think you make a fair point when you're talking about.
They still haven't lost in 4 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, I see where you're coming from there. I think South Christian, I've left the door open to them hanging around in weeks past. I can't put them at the top, but they have played GRCC close in the past. And so, I mean, if they're able to pull that one off, then yeah, they're all the way back.
All right, OK Blue, I will go first here, just because I think this will be a quick one. West Catholic, they beat Holland Christian 28-14. Pretty good performance, actually, for Holland Christian. Kept it slightly closer than maybe would have expected in that game. Again, I think the window, Coopersville hasn't been quite as great the last couple of weeks. They even had a tough game when they played Hamilton in there for part of the way. So Unity is starting to crack that door back open. It's all going to come down to West Catholic Unity, I think, again. I think we want all these different directions saying, Coopersville, and then whatever. It's starting to feel like we're angling back in on Unity West Catholic. Right now, West Catholic will be one until that matchup, but that's what it's starting to feel like.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think for me, it's coming down to basically a 1.5 horse race is the way I'm looking at it. Is I think West Catholic's got it. I see them going undefeated. I think they beat Unity head to head, but you're exactly right. That Unity has kind of turned it around. They've won a couple games now, and obviously if they win that West Catholic game, I just feel like right now looking at what each team has done, there's a better chance that Unity loses a game not against West Catholic in the conference than
I agree with that. Yes,
West Catholic loses a non-Unity game in the conference. So that's where I'm thinking.
No, Unity has lost 2 games, so they've shown they have the ability to lose a game. As far as we know, West Catholic can't lose. But again, it's a 2-score. You don't want to knock a team for a 2-score win, but I expected to see that Holland Christian win come back a little bit bigger than that number. Maybe Holland Christian is better than we thought this year, but I expected that number to be a little bit bigger. So that's the only thing I'm starting to maybe wonder there. All right, the OK Silver. So as I said, we're in upheaval. Now, the thing is, I think the top team is going to be probably cut and dry. I don't know where you're going. We're going to know more this week because Belding and Sparta are playing. But Comstock Park has been atop our list for essentially 2 years straight. Last week they lost. It was the first time they moved. And then this week, they were down to one of the bottom teams in the conference, like 30-0 at the half. And, of course, never really turned that around. So it now opens things up wide for Belding, for Sparta to be in there. For the time being, for me, Belding unbeaten. They took out another previously unbeaten team, Calvin Christian, by 20 points last week. So I'll go Belding on top. The Silver always, like we said, seems to be in some amount of upheaval. And right now, I mean, again, we're quickly looking at Sparta. I have to let you pick, but we're quickly looking at Sparta being back in a chance to, like, another program we called dead, like, just bad the first 2 weeks of the year. They suddenly are right in position to have a Comstock Park and a Belding win. All of a sudden, all right, they have the best, what we thought was the best win against Comstock Park. Maybe that isn't the best win anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Belding as well. Long story short there. I've got
we'll just
Belding.
Get that out of the way first.
Undefeated, scoring 54 points a game. Hard to pick against them right now for what they've done. That being said...
Next paragraph.
That being said, I kind of wish I had held on to my Sparta pick for one more week.
Normally, you don't give up. I mean, we've said it with West Otto. You don't give up.
It was hard to stick with a 0-2 team there, but
0-2 with multi-score losses.
Yeah, no, I mean, are they back? I don't know. I think I reverse jinxed them back into being competitive here, but I mean, Comstock Park is kind of 2 straight losses. They're kind of on the opposite end, the team that I had switched to, of course. So the flip flop there going on, but. I mean, then you've still got Hopkins hanging around at 3-1 as well. So I mean,
about them.
Yeah, I think Belding's at the top right now, but you're seriously talking about 3 teams that are all going to kind of play head-to-head here, and we're going to learn a little bit more. But I think Belding is kind of the clear-cut one for right now.
I'm curious how.
So bad news for Belding, but
right. I'm curious how. I'll have to take a look at their week 9 where these teams are, because that could be, of course, again, when you look at our MGN schedule right now, week 9, our East Kentwood Michigan Sports Radio team is going to have the Grandville coverage that week. So I'm curious, and I'm thinking right now, like that week 9, I'm not sure who's playing who. We might end up doing an OK Silver game, because who knows where things are going to wind up falling. Again, like I could see Hopkins, Hopkins had that like 2-year stretch where they were unbeatable. They may all of a sudden slip in there now too. I kind of forgot about them fitting at 3-1, so that's upheaval. I mean, things right now, it's one or the other in this area. It's either 2 3-team races and it's completely a toss-up, or you have like the white and the blue, which are pretty locked down. We know what it is. I mean, because even when the OK Gold is a borderline toss-up based on how much you want to push it right now, that shows how wild things are. This is going to be one of the most entertaining playoff races I think we've seen in quite a while, especially when you look at how many teams are 3-1, 2-2 right now that are good teams.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think as these teams settle it out on the field, I'm going to be very curious to see how it all plays out. I think when you've got multiple teams like that, and I think it's always fun when you've got a team that really dominates and you kind of know what they are and you know their strengths, but it's also really cool to see multiple teams be competitive when you've got any given week, a team can jump up and steal a game and put themselves right in a great spot.
All right, 6:30 p.m. on Friday, MichiganSportsRadio.com/MGN. Of course, you can find us through MichiganGameNight.com as your one-stop shop. But we'll have Facebook streams. We'll have Twitter streams. We'll have the Grandville Athletics YouTube video feed. We'll be supplying our audio to that. We'll kind of potentially see where that feed might get put out, too, as well. A couple different things we're maybe working on. But all over, you can find us, MichiganGameNight.com. Grandville, Caledonia. Should be an incredible game. As I mentioned again, stay tuned to @MIGameNight on Twitter and Facebook, because we're a little bit to be announced in terms of this show for next week. So I do know the broadcast will be Grandville-Rockford via Brock Conkle's Michigan Sports Radio team. That will be a video broadcast. Even though we're not doing it, there will be video, so at least a really, really good broadcast experience. I mean, Brock's been doing Rockford games for literally almost 20 years. It started in 2005. So that game will be going on there. We'll see with our show. With my schedule, I have to leave by like Wednesday for the event I'm doing, so we'll see how everything's going to work out in terms of doing this show or not, who we may interview, what we may talk about. So we'll see. TBA on that. That's in the future. We'll talk about it more. All that matters now, Grandville, Caledonia, top 10 battle in the state, top 8 battle in the state, Friday, 6:30, MichiganSportsRadio.com/MGN. He is Chandler Timmer. I am Nate Dreyer. We'll see you all Friday night. It will be the game of the year on MGN.